Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. We have Drew, Matt, and Seth here, Misfit Athletics, giving you guys the 2016 regional event breakdown. We are going to cover both individual
and team.
Wow, excellent. We're not going to spend a ton of time getting into all the details. We're basically going to do an overview of the things we think could make the largest impact if you're competing in one of these upcoming weekends, or if you're a fan, kind of what to watch for as the athletes approach these different movements. Let's just dive right in, unless you guys got something else you want to talk about.
Good to go. Let's do it.
Good. Event 1 with the snatch. So they have to snatch. Well, how many total reps is it?
It's 30 reps.
30 total reps,
Yep.
18 in the first 2 bars, right?
Yes.
So how does somebody approach the snatch? And obviously we're going to have different styles of athletes that, have different strengths and weaknesses. This is a pretty straightforward event. Test strength and conditioning, and you have to move big weights. So what do they do to start?
I mean, what I look at in this event is that your pull is going to be definitely tested across 30 bars, or 30 reps, or say, of those the snatches. But what I'm looking for from someone early on is to save their pull. They can get the bar to the hip and kind of do more of the Metcon style snatch where the bar gets to their hip and drop underneath it early on. They could save their pull for the bigger weights later on. I think finding a good pace is important. You don't want to go bat out of hell if you're going to ruin your pull to start that workout. I think it's really easy to, get too jacked up, start, not moving correctly because you're rushing, and then next thing you know, 4 minutes is in, you haven't finished that last rep of 8, at 2:05, and next thing you know, you're done. So,
and athletes are finding out pretty quickly that the time goes by a lot faster than they thought. 1 or 2 misses by rushing something, and even if they thought they're at a good pace, their time's gone, and all of a sudden they're not
small
getting
room
to the
for
third
error.
bar. Yeah. What do you think?
It's one of those things where it's like twice as unfair to not be good at pulling, because the people who are good at pulling, it's very natural for them to get to power position regardless of the weight. Whereas if you aren't a natural puller, you're going to overpull, you're not going to get there, which makes the lift harder. So the lift is easier for the puller, not only because they're stronger, but because they're naturally going to get back to those positions every time. They don't have that pre-fatigue. So from what I've seen, we've seen plenty of athletes run through this, is just that position where you pause them in power position, and if you could just, like, if you mimicked a power position right now and you were a little forward, if I could just pause and poke you back to here, the lifts would all be made. But they're being lost out in front because people are losing their scaps. They're trying, they feel the heavy weight off the floor in their first pull, and they try to get a little aggressive just above the knee, and they pay for it. So it's really just about, if you aren't one of the stronger athletes, you have to get to power position every single rep. You have to.
So do you think
it's mandatory?
Do you think missing a lift is going to be the detriment to the athlete that doesn't make it further on, or is it more of a conditioning thing as well, or because you're talking about getting a power position?
I feel like this event is like natural selection. Like,
you're right.
It's like you attack it this way, you do touch and go, you're smaller, so maybe you go a little bit faster, but then you're going to pay for it, or you save yourself and hope that the adrenaline's there.
Yeah.
It's like one of those open workouts where there's no strategy. It's like, are you fit or not? Like, this is, can you snatch, and can you stay patient in the snatch once the weight gets heavier? Are you going to allow your pre-fatigue to dictate how you move? So that's the trick. That's getting back to power position, being a controlled athlete, and sticking to your guns. How you move is how you're going to succeed.
It reminds me a lot of the open workout with the heavy cleans. As kind of it increased weight, it decreased reps, and you found people that could easily hit the clean, but they couldn't get far enough in before the time expired. And we're going to have people that have that same issue where they hit 18 reps in the first 2 bars, and maybe their weight wasn't that light, but now they're gassed going to 225. So if they didn't move fast enough and give themselves enough time to hit just 6 reps at 225, which should be, a lot of guys can do that touch and go. A lot of guys go into regionals, but can they do it after 18 reps of pulling on the bar, heart jacked up, panicking, rushing, probably missing power position because they're rushing lifts over and over again? Don't know what's going to happen.
When I think of it, just make sure you move with purpose every single time. You're getting back to your heels and extending vertically. If you can make yourself shuffle your feet laterally, always catch the bar without having to step forward, because what I see from a lot of athletes that are doing this is that you'll see that rep where they step forward, and all of a sudden that's just extra time under tension, extra movement they have to do to then reset and do it all over again. So moving with purpose, I think, is a big part of this, thinking about how you move as you do it.
I want to ask this before we move on to the next event. Why will Travis Williams be so successful here, knowing that he is going to go out what I would call too fast, but it'll work for him. And knowing that he's going to go touch and go when I'm not going to recommend it to anybody else. Why is he still going to be successful?
I mean, he's a little crazy, first of all, but he's also a really good puller, which is a huge advantage in this workout. The better you are at pulling, the better you can do in this piece. Personally, that's what I think.
I don't think he allows that mentality of my pull is starting to go, I'm going to start moving differently to enter his head ever. I think he's going to get back to those positions. We see it time and time again. It's like he's going to fall apart in this next rep, right? Nope. What about the next one? Nope. What about the next one? And that's muscle memory because he does this over and over in training. You can pause his ridiculous position where his ass is straight up in the air, but then you can pause him again, add power position with that crazy look on his face. Bam, here, he's ready to make the lift again. So,
anything to add to the snatch? It's going to be exciting as hell.
Warm up twice.
Yeah.
Warm up, cool down, warm up again. You don't want to not be primed ever, really. And then you don't want to be double primed when your heart's going like this because you got to hit heavy snatches in event 1.
Yeah, not just warming up the lift, but your heart will get jacked up even as you're just standing there before you run to that first bar. So if you're not ready,
you should be lubed up twice.
For sure.
Double lube.
Cool. So polar opposite, event 2, strict Nate.
Woohoo.
Kind of crazy.
It's a cool event. I like the idea of putting something strict in. I don't know how easy it's going to be to judge, but
it's going to be super fun to watch.
Well,
I do agree though. Good
if
event.
you do have a good horse that's taking the lead, it is kind of exciting to watch how many rounds they can build ahead of the next person. Because on the girls' side, it's going to be drastic. On the guys' side, if you can lap a round or two on some athletes, that's very, very significant. And I think that's going to be cool to watch when someone actually passes someone that full lap the first time. That's really big. The standard is what's throwing me off on the strict muscle up. So I've read the rules. I've watched the Instagram clips with Boz in it. I've watched the demo video on the game site. And now I've seen 30 athletes that we'll see at regionals all give their best attempt at the strict muscle up. They all look slightly different. What's going to happen on Thursday when they brief athletes? What are they going to emphasize?
I think the biggest thing I see on social media would be that swing forward of the legs. Even though it's not contributing to a very big hip extension, any swing forward of the legs as the athlete starts to pull themselves to the rings, I think is going to be a no rep. But we'll obviously find out the first weekend. I just think that you really should practice right now. Feet stay out in front of you the entire rep.
So what happens when somebody is really strong upper body and they pull quickly, and that pull leaning that torso back to get up over the rings elevates their legs? Even if they stay straight, the feet come out in front and stay out in front, meeting the standard. If they move up too fast, are they going to take it away because someone's too fast of a puller? Do we have to slow that down?
My guess is they're going to look at the angle between the torso and the leg. As long as that angle stays closed, even if it's a very small amount, it's going to be a rep.
What if it closes more as they're pulling up?
I think that's a problem.
Yeah, I don't think that's a good thing. I think
I wouldn't plan on being okay.
So the angle of the hip should stay from the moment you pull.
Yes.
You think that'll be the standard?
Yeah, I do.
It'll be interesting to see what they say on Thursday.
I'll also be interested to see whether or not, I see a lot of athletes get a little bit of knee bend as they pull themselves over the ring, whether that's going to count as well.
I don't think it will.
I don't think so either, but I've seen a lot of it on social media, so it'll be interesting to see.
Interesting. Anything else about that workout?
Honestly, for me, strict gymnastics is about body awareness. It's not about that much about fitness, and it's not that much about strength. It's about understanding how your body moves through space when you don't get to kip. I mean, you think about every time I watch an athlete in here fail a strict muscle up, it's because they slide back in between the rings before they try to turn over. And that's all about that idea of, the midline connects to the transverse abdominis, to the lats.
Whoa, transverse abdominis?
To the upper back.
Poles,
like,
twist.
if you miss one of those connection pieces, if you don't understand what it's like to wind up and use your lats to pull low, then it's a huge problem. And you can be super strong and you can be great through 4 rounds because you're relying on your fitness. But if you don't have that body awareness, it's the same as the strict handstand push-ups. If you don't go to the tripod position, just like you've been doing with a barbell for 6 years straight now, and then get back through and load through these proper positions, you're going to rely on your fitness until you're screwed at some point in the workout. And then I think that's the wrong way to approach it. So body awareness and knowing what you're doing, you might be a guy that plots along a little bit slower and ends up on top because someone just doesn't control themselves.
See, I did this with Austin, this workout we ran through this. I mean, I did an abbreviated version for the team stuff before we knew the team events, but I feel like it wasn't much of a breather. You're not going to be breathing heavy throughout this event unless you're one of those athletes who can just push through strict muscle ups, which I don't think we're going to see a lot of athletes that can do that. If you, like Drew said, move well over and over again, you just tick, 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 tick away. And next thing you know, 20 minutes is up, you've already been done, and everyone's just still flailing their way through, muscle ups and strict handstand push-ups. So,
yeah. A lot of finishers or not a lot of finishers?
I think on the guy side, we'll see a decent amount. The lady
Like the
side,
majority? Better than 50% or less?
No.
No,
Yeah,
I'd say
I'd say
less. I'd probably say
way
about a
less.
third. About a third,
third?
I'd say. Yeah, about a third, I bet.
You'll see a couple of people
I don't even
finish
think we'll
per
see that.
heat. I just think random people are going to finish.
I think it'll be about 10 or less per region for guys.
Will Austin Spencer finish it?
I'm not willing to answer that question.
All right, fair enough.
Actually, he should. Realistically, he should. Whether
Watch
he
him do
does
that
on
again.
game day or not,
if he
we'll
learns
see.
to load his handstand push-ups properly, maybe.
Yeah, load right.
What's up, bro?
Yeah. So, Nate, that's going to be exciting. Very exciting.
As exciting as the half marathon row at the games.
Right. I actually like that with the
I did
screen.
too.
That was kind of cool.
entertaining. I had to do time.
All right. So, that's day 1. Day 2,
All right.
event 3 and 4, really fast paced, no room for error.
Absolutely not.
Big sets. We have event 3, which is 104 wall balls.
Correct.
52 pull-ups.
Yep.
1 minute rest. Event 4 is 28 pistols, 15 power cleans, 115 and 80.
80, correct.
Yep, and that's all the way to the floor, not the hang.
Yeah, that's to the floor.
See, when I first heard that, I said, "Oh, they would never go to the floor with 115. Doesn't make sense."
They
of course
did.
they are. Wrong again. All right, what do you think about the first part? Wall balls and pull-ups.
I mean, they said on the update show, I think that humongous sets of wall balls are going to be necessary, if not unbroken, for the best athletes. The ones that are going to finish going to the games, I feel, are going to be either one set or,
We've
maybe
watched
it's
enough people do it unbroken now that you better go unbroken if you're trying to go to the games.
Let me make sure I have the standard clear. To be able to go unbroken, you must actually throw your wall ball to the side on your 27th rep and step, because I think it said something about stepping to the left after 26 or the right and then stepping back. So I think you actually change targets every 26 reps so that the crowd can see where you're at.
Wow.
So
Could you catch it, move?
that's
and
what
then
I'm
start
asking.
throwing it again?
I figured he would have figured this out by now.
No, actually, I wasn't at all aware of this, so that's new to me.
And maybe I'm wrong. The way I read it is that you have to take a step after every 26. So like when I was going through it with Alexis, who's not a huge fan of doing huge sets of wall balls, she used that 26
As her break.
as her break, right? So she just used that as a transition, and then you make 4 sets of it. Is that, if you chose to do 4 sets, is that okay if the break is short enough? And let's talk about guy side, because that's kind of where the bigger sets of wall balls usually happen, especially with that 10-foot target. Can you take breaks, or do you have to try to do that kind of side shuffle throw and carry on?
I mean,
is that significant?
If it's a break, you better be fast at pull-ups, because you aren't going to get much time for error on this. I feel like the toss and move to the side is the best strategy on something like this.
But we see, like, we're fortunate enough to train some of the better athletes, especially in the South region, which is coming up. Let's talk about like maybe the bottom half of that region. Is it realistic for the guys that are from 20 to 40th going in there to hit 104 or whatever it is wall balls in a row? Like, is that something that happens all the time now?
Yes, but I don't think they can do the pull-ups after. So
Okay.
who cares if you can hit 104 wall balls?
Yeah, so depending on how the targets are set up and how the event actually is run, I think he's right. If you can do 104 wall balls, can you do any pull-ups after, or are you doing 3 sets? Because the best athletes are going to do a big chunk of wall balls and then go over the pull-up bar and hang on.
Where would you, as an athlete, speaking as an athlete, rather have your break in something like this? During the wall ball sets or during the pull-ups? Where would you find that a break would either benefit you more, or you think you would give up less time to the opponent by breaking at a certain point?
Me personally, I like to get ahead. I don't like to be behind in a workout, so I would try to do the 104 wall balls in a row and then hopefully do 2 sets of pull-ups. That would be my strategy. But I'm being a bigger athlete, I'm not the best at pull-ups, so that's how I would attack this workout.
I would say that you can plan your rest better earlier on in a workout than you can later. So my thing would be, you're going to see everyone else in your heat. So if you have the plan of drop it and pick it right back up, or drop it and 3, 2, 1, pick it back up, and you can hold on to that, I think you'll be much better off than trying to break up your pull-ups when who knows what, your blood's going to be pooling up in your arms and your all that. So I think it's do or die on the pull-ups. I think you go for as big a set as you can, and if it's singles after that, that's sorry, but it's just so fast.
Playing devil's advocate, I would think about it in kind of a different way. So if I can go through the 104 wall balls with everybody else, it's roughly the same time. You can't really speed up a wall ball that much, maybe a little bit, but not significantly. If you do that and you're ahead of more than half the field, or even 2/3 of the field, because you chose to go unbroken, others either had to rest or chose to take rest, isn't it quicker to do a big set of pull-ups, come down and jump right back up and just reset your grip, than it is to let a wall ball fall or change targets or pick it back up into squat clean and go back up?
Yes, I also think it's a psychological advantage too to be ahead that way. I think that's a huge part of this event every year. The best athletes are some.
You can always do more wall balls.
Yes, that's
sometimes
true.
pull-ups.
At that level, can everyone just keep doing pull-ups though? That's what I think about at this level. Like, everyone can just be like, oh, I just did 40.
So
they
first,
can.
like 47 of them.
And so this is the perfect segue into the next event, because is it worth holding on, and no matter who you are, holding on for 52 pull-ups after all those wall balls, your forearms are going to be pumped.
Oh, for
You
sure.
have 60 seconds
Well,
before you go hammer.
Hopefully you get a little more than that.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Finished,
So
yeah.
absolutely right. So you have 60 seconds from the cap. Hopefully you have 2.5 minutes or so if you're decent at the workout. To rest before you're going to hit 28 fast pistols, and then try to hold on to a light barbell, which is sometimes more annoying on the grip than a heavier barbell, for 60 power cleans. So kind of tying the two together.
This is your dream workout right here.
Yeah.
You'd love to do this.
Yeah, so just something that's why I brought up the breaking the pull-ups. Maybe, obviously it depends athlete to athlete who that helps more, but maybe that resetting the pull-up 3 times doesn't pump your forearms out as much.
If it's planned and quick, yeah, for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
So we're not giving anyone answers here. We're just kind of
Musing about it.
Talking shit.
putting things in your head to consider.
Shit.
So the next workout, take me through it.
So now we have that minute break, 4 rounds of 28 pistols and the 15 power cleans. I think getting through that is just going to be who is smooth on the pistols and who can cycle the barbell the best. I watched Austin go through this one time. The first time, I think he went a little too hot in the first half of this, the event 3, so his event 4 didn't go as hot as he wanted to. But I think making sure that you're steady on the pistols, you're not really doing too much extra effort. You're able to sit straight down that heel, stand straight back up, switch sides back and forth, kind of catch your breath during the pistols. Hopefully that your heart rate's come back down some from the other part, and then hang on to the barbell as best you can.
Even though there's 60 cleans and they're light, it is a pistol workout, right? The person with the fastest pistols wins 9 out of 10 times?
Yeah, as long as they can hang onto the bars somewhat. I mean, it's not doing singles, but yeah.
Well, I mean, we've seen in the past, even singles, if the bar's not bouncing, can be roughly as fast as touch and go.
Yeah, for sure. I
So-
wanted to see it in something like this, how that plays into effect.
What do you think? Pretty straightforward, but
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely straightforward. I would just say that if you have a rough event 1 and 2, and you get pushed back into the pack a little bit, and your goal is to go to the games or to do this or that, this is that trap workout where you can fall in line with your heat and not give it your best, and then not go to the games by a few points, by this amount that you could have pushed if you knew. So if you end up with, you struggle, like I said, you struggle a little bit, you have to be able to do this workout against yourself, knowing that someone in the heat above you is going to smash the second place person in your heat. That is 100% going to happen. We've seen it with our own athletes. It's tough to watch. They win the heat, but it's just not the same atmosphere as that heat 1
Right.
or heat 4, whatever it is. So make sure that, with this being a little bit, I don't want to say longer, but just that plodding back and forth, you might feel like you're going unbroken, but there's a difference between this and then the kind of step to the left, step to the
Definitely.
right. You're looking around like, wow, I'm crushing these guys. And
This is a red line event for sure. You want to test your throttle at something like this because it's going to be over quick and you don't get left behind.
then we're really sorry you still have to do event 5.
I mean, 3 and 4 is 200 points. They're
sure.
both relatively short on the high end, right? So the first event 3 is sub 4 for the winner, and event 4 is 5-ish.
Yeah, right around 5. I bet.
5-ish, maybe sub 4 for the top
30
score, or
seconds.
sub 5 for the top score in the world. Not sub 4, I don't think.
I don't think so either.
So yeah, like Drew was saying, if you don't kind of put it all out there and you give away 10 seconds in each workout, you probably gave away, 30, 40 points
30
on the
to 40
scoreboard,
points.
right? So yeah, really important there. Yeah, and then event 5, you still have Saturday night. I'm sure this is probably your favorite event, right? It suits you best.
I'd love to do this
And
event. It's so
You
fun.
might set the world record if you knew how to run.
No chance. I got to set the world record. I can't run.
All right.
No chance.
What do you think? What's most important? First of all, we got 3 movements: run, GHD, deadlift. What is the difference maker in this workout for the majority of athletes?
Deadlift.
Really?
Well, people are starting to change my mind on this with the way that they're performing the deadlifts.
Yeah.
But that does not mean that they're going to be able to do that when they get out there after all of the stuff they've done that day.
Absolutely
To me,
right.
it's the exact same thing with the puller. Like, if you don't stay, I don't know if the camera can see me, but if you don't stay here, if you start to go here and do the squat and come back up, and then you have to run and do GHDs, you are screwed. So I guess the difference maker for the bottom, I guess I would say 30, is the deadlift. The top 10, I think the difference maker is probably, shit, man, this is tough. But that's the thing, like the 400s are going to get old fast.
Oh, they're awful.
And also we're testing it with almost everyone not on a true form. Right. So that changes the, I don't know. I guess I've just worked it out of my brain, and it's your weakness is your issue in this workout.
That would make sense.
I really don't think that there's like, oh, this is going to hold this guy back. Because we saw last year, I mean, some random people are really good at GHD sit-ups.
Yes.
Down, up, down, up, down, up. They don't really bother people. Some elite athletes under fatigue struggle with them a lot. So
yeah, I mean, I've gone through all 3 movements and decided that was like the pinnacle of the workout, and then I've changed my mind about 6 or 7 times. At first it was the deadlift, like you said, and then I started to watch and realized, like I've said 3 times now, like 405 is the new 315. People are just ripping that. It's
right, but almost
the high
every
level
athlete,
anyway.
Yeah, I was going to say almost every athlete that you're talking about is going to be in the top 10.
Yep. More than likely, or could be in the top 10.
Right,
yeah,
right,
sure.
yes.
Yeah, they definitely are at that fitness level. Yeah. But so I guess that's, yeah. I moved on from the deadlift, and then I thought, oh, the run, definitely. And then can people really create that much separation on the run? Yeah, you might be able to get 10 seconds on somebody 3 times, and 30 seconds is significant in a workout. But then if you're slow as balls on the GHD, it's so easily overcome over 40 reps.
We watched a lot of athletes doing the 100 GHD sit-ups last year, just sit on top of the GHD and just rest and do nothing for so long, over and over again, because 100's a big set. You're doing about half of that 3 times. I just feel like after that run, the sit-ups are going to be the pace car. Like, who can stay moving on the GHD sit-ups over and over again?
And again, speaking from some of the better athletes that I work with, a lot of them are saying that the GHD is their recovery so that they can push the run. Metabolically, it's not difficult, but physically, I mean, it's super taxing to get off that to feel good enough to go pull the bar 7 times and then get right back onto a run. So you're going to see people by round 2, round 3, the splits on the rounds will significantly change, especially round 3. Even when people try to pick it up and be like, last round push, can you actually push any harder through those 3 movements? It's pretty tough to do. So
it's going to be interesting to see for sure. I think it's going to be the
Good luck,
GHD,
guys.
but we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I would never even attempt this workout with 225. I would die. Terrible. And that's Friday, Saturday. Okay, so 2 events left.
Sunday.
Starting out with a pretty, in my opinion, disappointing chipper. It doesn't have the fire of some of the chippers in the past.
Seems kind of short. It just seems too short to be the regionals chipper to me. It just seems...
What's the cap?
16?
Yep.
I think.
A little
short.
Well, I mean, they always say that I don't know that we can call this. It's almost like the just smashing you on Saturday is their version this year of whatever they call it. Moving day or tough, tough guy Saturday. Like,
it's true.
Like Sunday, yes, it is a chipper,
Tough
but
guy
it's
Saturday.
more like, do you have shoulders?
Yeah, I guess it's more like, can you handle moderate to heavy weight under fatigue and not make a mistake? Because 500-meter row and a 1K bike, you just will not get much separation.
No.
And even if you try to get separation, you'll probably screw yourself by doing so. So there isn't a lot to be gained there. The handstand walk is 100 feet. Everyone can walk on their hands now, especially 100 feet. And people are going to choose to take breaks during that handstand walk.
Probably 50 and 50 or something like that.
Or even 3 sets, whatever, just to make sure that their shoulders aren't on fire when they go to pick up the first bar. When you get to that first set of 10 overhead squats, what do?
I feel like the best athletes are going to pick that bar up, get it into a good position, and squat all 10 in a row. But, I mean...
And that's it, folks. Thanks a lot.
The biggest thing I think from the better athletes is going to make sure they sit back and they stay tall in those, right? They don't let themselves get pitched forward and put more stress on their shoulders that are already fatigued from the handstand walk. The athletes that can sit straight up and straight down aren't going to have too much trouble, I don't think, with those.
We got to talk about the overhead squats. Some of the videos I'm seeing, nice, controlled, beautiful, halfway down, and then let's just go Gumby mode, bounce, and see if we can shake our way back up through it. This movement at this weight for 90% of the field is slow, but it's 225 squats for 10. That's what it is. That's what your legs, that's the load your legs are being put under. It's nothing. It's not a big deal.
Right.
That's been around in CrossFit for years. It's whether you can actually control the weight. You can stay in it mentally for all 10 reps. It's not like a front squat. It's not like a back squat. It's not like all these other movements where you can kind of just, zombie mode your way through it. If you are controlled and have intent throughout the reps and they're a little bit slower, go unbroken. It shouldn't be that big of a deal. But you see people get that weight overhead, they start to move too fast, and then they just start shaking, and they wonder why they can't control for the rest of it. So,
how do you feel about the snatch versus like the clean and wide grip jerk, push, squat, jerk thing that people do? What would you, to the field, I guess the majority of people, knowing that no matter how many times we tell somebody to say, hey, don't kill yourself on the bike, don't kill yourself on the handstand walk, people are going to kill themselves on the bike and kill themselves in the handstand walk. What's the safest way and most efficient way to get through those 10 for the majority of the field? What would you say? Try the snatch, or is it?
No. I would
ask.
I would ask the majority of the field to power clean it, put it on their back.
On the back.
On their back, and then go up overhead. People who are racing, trying to go to the CrossFit Games, if you have the power clean to squat jerk and you can control that first rep, you're off to the races. But if you can do that, there's a pretty good chance you're just going to smoke them anyways.
Right. What about the snatch?
What's that?
What about the snatch for rep 1? A lot of guys want to do it.
I would say that the barrier to entry for that's like a 275 to 300 snatch. And if you don't have that, then,
don't risk it.
Don't risk it. It's not worth it. I mean, we saw multiple athletes in the overhead squat event that ended regionals in 2014.
Yep.
Try to snatch it and miss it.
Yeah.
And it's like, Joe Carney missed it, and he's at that point snatched 285.
Right.
So at that point in the weekend, how you feel is not going to be the exact same as strolling up to a 225 snatch, after you've warmed up. So I would say the majority of the field, get that bad boy on your back so that you go unbroken. You don't want to have to deal with that twice. And, if you've got that squat jerk and you feel really comfortable with it. But again,
you would have had to practice that a lot of times.
Dump it forward. It's a problem. You should definitely test that in the warm-up area.
That's not something that you just kind of go at like, hey, I've never done this before today. We're going to test the clean and squat jerk and see if I can roll with it. Yeah, it's something that you've done over and over and over again. You feel confident. You've tested it under fatigue. If you haven't, then it's ridiculous to even think about considering. So kind of fast forwarding, staying on this chipper though, after you get through those 10, get to that row, smart paced. You don't have to kill yourself in the row. Again, you have 50 burpee box actual jump overs, not on and over, but actual jump overs leading into another set of 5. I feel like that last set of 5 is going to be obviously dictated by what happened in your first set of 10. You're going to be more fatigued, more tired, but half the set, if the first way you approached it didn't work, you probably shouldn't have tried again when you're more tired, more beat up the second time. Anything else you guys want to add about how to approach that second half of the chipper?
I still think that the workout would be dictated a lot by how hard people can push on those burpee box jump overs. I feel like that's going to be a big delineator who goes beyond, finishes top 10 that workout, and who kind of just falls apart because that's a mental grind for 50 reps. It's a lot of reps to do.
Do you think people can, just for 50 reps, do you think there'll be differences in over a minute completing that one station between athletes?
Yes.
Yeah, I'd say roughly a minute would probably be a good guess on how much span there'll be between all the best and the worst at that event.
Yeah, and I think a minute is very fair. I think it could even be more, but
those are going to be a grind for sure.
And then the final.
Woohoo.
So fast, so simple.
It's going to hurt so bad.
Will it?
Yes, I think it will hurt.
The best athletes, will it hurt them? It's really...
If your brain is involved, you're fucked.
If you've got a brain, you can't do this.
I mean, I watched Austin do it in here, and the second he thought about what was happening, what was going on, you just have to try mentally to take yourself back to the first time you did, Fran or something like that. And, at what point did you let your feelings and, all that into the equation? They don't belong in this workout. They have nothing to do with this workout. Every single person at regionals should be able to do this unbroken. It shouldn't be that bad. But the second you think about it, you can be in 5th place and now you're in 8th. You can't think during this workout. Who gives a shit what your warm-up is? Who gives a shit how you feel? there's no thinking.
And you need to run from the bar to the rope.
Yes,
but this isn't a trot.
Is like, I mean, it's kind of like last year. I mean, just in that sense of like, there's just go.
Yeah.
And if you fuck up, that's it.
That's your weekend.
If you don't know how to go by now, I don't even know how you're there to begin with. So
Yeah,
I think people know how to go though in the right circumstances, the right gym. It's their favorite barbell. They feel good that morning.
Sure.
You can't. Those are not variables in this.
I mean,
if you want to do well,
if you're in the top 2 heats going into that event, chances are the athletes next to you, you won't have to dictate the pace. Only one person gets to pick the pace, right, in the whole field. You're not going to let 9 guys run past you and do that. So I think the event will be exciting, even if you're not at that level that you're going to go further than regionals to the games, because someone's not going to let someone run away from them. If you get stuck on the rope, I think we'll see actually people fail rope climbs.
Oh, for sure.
Instead of
and
trying
then
to
they'll be
pace
screwed.
it. Well, but that's okay,
Yeah.
because if you don't take the chance, you lose anyway, right? So
Yeah.
you have to put yourself in position to be
out.
successful. If you're not going to the games anyway, sell out anyway.
Yeah.
If you think you're going to go to the games, you're right on that bubble, you have to go.
Right.
Someone's going to pass you. And we saw a lot of people get passed and the order get changed big time in every region last year with that final. This will be even crazier, just as tight, even though it's 3 times as long.
no thinking.
Individual, anything else? It's going to be
I
awesome.
think we covered it all.
Cool.
So the team.
Quickly, Team Master Sherburne here
Team
is going to
Master.
take us through an abbreviated version of his points that he thinks will make the biggest difference in each event for the teams. He's on the team here at CrossFit MF. Drew and I have been to a bunch of team trainings with them. Sherb's kind of been the leader of the team for the last few weeks. And I think he's got some pretty good ideas on what's going to be the difference maker in each event. And he'll just kind of give you an overview, and we'll comment on whether we think he's right or wrong.
All right, let's go.
Do it.
Other than obviously picking your order and practicing ahead of time, the things I'm going to go over are just kind of in-event things that I think are good ideas. Going with event 1, which is going to be the 60 strict handstand push-ups, the 20 bar muscle-ups, and then the cals on both machines,
Yep.
and then the power
I want
cleans.
everyone in the internet to know that I did this, and it was fucking just, oh my God.
It was delightful to watch.
It was so bad.
I did not do it.
Oh my.
So what I'm thinking on this first event is going to be making sure you stay calm and smooth on both gymnastics movements, so you don't get yourself out of breath, because I think this workout is won and lost on both machines, and then the power cleans at the end. I think all the good teams are going to have athletes who can do big chunks of handstand push-ups. They'll do the 15-10-5, no problem. Bar muscle-ups, maybe 2 or maybe 3 sets at the most.
Yep.
It's going to be who can outwork the other teams on the machines, and then who can grip and rip that barbell the smoothest. So that's kind of how I look at the very first event, is who can push the machine.
So smooth through gymnastics, set yourself up to be able to empty the tank kind of on the machines, and then hold on for dear life with the barbell.
Yeah, I think the barbell, you're already going to be smoked at that point. It's just going to be who can cycle that barbell smooth and, transition back and forth as quickly as possible.
Cool.
Yeah, that's it's going to be a good test to see who can work and who can't.
Yeah.
All right, moving
Do
on
it
to
faster than the other
keep
teams.
moving.
All right, events 2 and 3, guys and girls snatching. Essentially the same thing we just talked about with the individuals. The only real difference is, because it's 3 guys and 3 girls, if you have an athlete who can't proceed at a certain bar, send them packing and let the other 2 athletes kind of go on, because at the end of the day, it's total weight lifted.
Right.
So if you have someone failing over and over again and you're losing time off that 10-minute time cap,
It's a waste.
yeah, get them back. So have them run back.
I got to give you a scenario. So we have an athlete here that we know can get through the 225, but that it would be a stretch for him to hit 1 at 245. Does he get sent out to do that bar? Is it even worth it to add 245 pounds to the total, or does he get the hell out of the way so that we're not going to call you out, Max, on live TV, so that you guys can run down and do that? Have you done the math out to see is it worth it for him to
Cody
hit
and I
1?
ran through the entire snatch ladder in a little over 6 minutes. It was like 6.5 minutes for us to clear the ladder. If Max goes with us to that point, we're probably 8 minutes, maybe 8.5 minutes. So it might be worth it to give him one attempt.
Once he gets through his 225, does he get sent back out for 245 or no?
I think he gets a crack at it and he gets one attempt. And if he doesn't hit it,
Runs
he goes back, and
See
then
ya.
and Cody and I go to work. So
Okay.
that's kind of how I would look at that.
But
event.
even then, is it worth it for him to hit 1 and take
Would
up all that
would that
time?
be a PR?
Yes.
Let's ask it like this. Is it worth somebody who's going for a PR to hit a weight like that?
I think so.
So
If
it applies
it's
to
that
everybody.
one attempt, because at the end of the day, if Cody and I get through the entire workout, but we have one extra 245 pound snatch, 245 more pounds that we wouldn't have otherwise.
Right.
As long as it doesn't take away from us getting the attempt at 265, it's worth it.
So it's the balance of giving someone a crack, but making sure they're not pulling away from your time.
Exactly. You
Got
want
it.
your best athletes who can hit the heaviest weights. They have all the opportunity they can, as long as it doesn't take away from, someone can get a PR, but at the end of the day, it's total weight lifted, so that's what's important.
Makes sense to me.
Events 4 and 5, we have a true form run. We have the overhead squat with the pull-up bar hold, and then the GHD with the deadlift hold. How I look at this, have each athlete run as hard as possible in the GHD, the true form, because they're going to get 2-to-1 rest. So you're going to sprint hopefully for close to a minute. I know sprint is in quotations, but they're going to run hard for a minute.
Can't wait to watch you sprint for a minute on a true form.
Yeah, like I'm fond of.
That'd be funny if you just like ate shit right over the front of it or something
Could
somehow.
happen. It definitely could
That
happen.
would be the best.
Or I'd like step on the track and head it.
Yes.
Yeah, so,
I hope.
Make sure you get that live stream going.
That's right. Sure. Anything can happen with Sherv on the running.
So you all run hard. Hopefully you've practiced on a true form. That's going to be key. And teams that get a chance to practice in true form are going to have an advantage there to kind of know how many rotations it's going to take to get through the 1,800 meters. My advice, hopefully your strongest athlete, the one that can overhead squat the best, would be the one that gets the longest rest before you guys transition into the overhead squats. They do a big chunk while the other two are hanging on the pull-up bar.
So you're going to plan that out so that the person, basically, if you're splitting it up equally, the person who's going to be the best overhead squats runs first so that the other two finish the run and that person's fresh moving to the bar.
As long as the true form works out to everyone gets X amount of rotations. Like
Sure.
It could be an odd amount. I don't know. We haven't practiced on a true form yet, but
Okay.
that would be my advice. They get a big chunk of overhead squats, and hopefully one other athlete can either finish it up or at worst, each athlete does one set of overhead squats. And then what I'd say is hopefully that turns into your best athlete then going to the GHD, getting a big set, while the athletes that were just overhead squatting and one of them holding the pull bar, hold the bar.
Clear this up for me. So it's 25 reps on the GHD? The deadlift hold needs to advance on the mat. Is that correct?
Yes.
So how does that factor into your strategy?
I think Cody did 56, 57 in a row without
GHDs?
GHDs without us setting the bar down. I think it does play into a factor because you have that release of tension.
So he would not have been allowed to do that on the floor, right? Because the
No, he
bar would
wouldn't
have had to move forward,
We'd have
and
to tell
then he
him to
could keep
stop,
going.
roll it
Got
forward and re-go. So looking at that way, at most maybe he gets 2 attempts. Like the person picking up the bar, he gets 2 attempts to do GHDs while we hold the bar. The first hold lasted somewhere between 90 seconds and 2 minutes, but it didn't hang anywhere near there after that. So
Would it be easier to do it the way we just described? So if Cody went on for 25 and you're the best holder of the bar, so you're going to do the back-to-back duty on the barbell, right? As you switch athletes. Cody does 25, you guys drop, roll, quickly reset, deadlift again. He continues with just another 25, and then he gets off as the bar is being transitioned again.
I think as long
is
as
that how you would...
I mean, that's how I would plan it too, because Cody loves GHD sit-ups and he
Right.
does them all the time. So it's something he's pretty, proficient at. As long as the GHDs stay fast, they don't turn into the lay
Yes.
back and pause and then throw yourself back over and over again. I think we're being good shape. But yes, so
Okay.
my strategy would let him go twice, and then hopefully Max does a set and I do a set to finish it out.
So if you have someone who's particularly strong with a GHD, it's not a terrible strategy, in your opinion, to have them do back-to-back sets of 25, have the strongest holder do the double duty on the bar, and then have the best holder do the last set of GHDs.
That's how we practice it here. Yes.
Makes
So
sense
I
to
think
me.
that that as long as it stays fast and no one's like dying holding the bar and we're not having to have a communication issue, you've already ironed that out beforehand. You should be in good shape.
Event 6.
Event 6, some more deadlifts and burpees. Making sure that your athletes line up, height wise, arm length wise is important, because we had.
I was going to say arm length is huge. So many
Yeah.
people think it's like, oh, this person's tall and this person's not.
Right.
Sometimes tall people have short arms.
We watched Cody and Caroline go through this, and Cody's 6'1" and Caroline's like 5'1", so Cody's kind of hunched over. So we had to configure who's lined up with who there.
Right.
And making sure that lines up is definitely important, so that you are getting the top of the deadlift at the same time. One athlete's not hunched over and one's overextending.
And
at the
hopefully teams have figured this out
Yeah,
already.
it's something hopefully they figured out. The biggest thing we saw in this event, have practiced it, is making sure that your team figures out a cadence for the burpees.
Okay.
We got all over the place when we first tried this, trying to figure out kind of a routine. Abby came up with like a line dance version of the burpee to get everybody in the sync, and it works pretty well now in terms of laying down, getting up, jumping over the bar, turning around, and
Do you guys
repeating.
use voice commands, or is it just because you all know each other's rhythm now that you go?
We've been practicing the rhythm so we can do it without talking. So if it's loud out there, you can, not struggling to hear someone else.
Yep.
And it's worked really well so far. So I think finding a cadence that works for your team.
Do you have a safe word?
No safe words.
Daddy,
just gotta go.
No, so just slap the person, say, slow down. No. So, the cadence is important. I think a lot of time can be lost on having to step back over the bar, jump over it again, step back over the bar, make sure you're in cadence.
A few questions that we got on this, and I guess we can hit them really quick. How do you choose which athletes go in which version of the workout?
Yeah, so I think the strongest athletes go first because they're going to have to handle the biggest chunks of deadlifts, even though they're advancing the bar every 15, and then it's 27 and 18, and it's 21, 15, 9. I think your strongest deadlifter goes first because they can pull that bar
But if
over
the
and over again.
size differences are so big, you don't necessarily get to choose that.
Not necessarily, but hopefully we're hoping that, in a perfect world, it all lines up. But you're right.
Okay.
You're right. If someone's drastically different, you'll have to figure out what combination works best.
It's more, to me, in my opinion, and I haven't done these, so you can tell me I'm wrong. It's more a deadlift endurance piece than a deadlift strength thing, especially with the first set, because you're not getting a break in 45 deadlifts. They're relatively heavy. They're not crazy heavy.
They don't feel that heavy.
When you split the weight up in half, they're not heavy.
No.
They're moderate deadlifts for each athlete, just a lot of weight on one bar. So it's more about, can you do 45 reps without needing that steady break that everyone else will get on the burpees later on, which will kind of let the posterior chain relax and then, to a degree, and then back on the bar.
Yeah, we found
Is
the
that
deadlifts.
right, or?
We found the deadlifts
Okay.
weren't super challenging as long as the athletes were lined up. All the other athletes
Gotcha.
other than Cody and Caroline had literally no problem doing the deadlifts. It seemed like they all did either 1 or 2 sets on every single one, and it was able to go fast. It was the one pair that wasn't matched up evenly that struggled.
And they had the 45. So by the end, it's going to
Yes.
look like a struggle for most people.
Oh yeah.
And that's a good note for her. We talked about this in the individuals, whether you're a puller or not. Caroline has the strongest deadlift on the team, but it's not 1 rep.
No.
It's 45.
It's 45 reps. So you might have to find someone that has a mechanical advantage that can handle the reps instead of, I pull 1 rep.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, maybe a pair of like a short duo, guy-girl duo, if they have to do that many. I mean, usually they're not the best pullers, but if it's the shorter range of motion, they get through it quicker, especially rolling the bar every 15. Maybe that helps.
And they
maybe.
can do the burpees maybe faster without that break in between.
Exactly.
Pushing the burpees. So
different things to think about. 7 and 8.
7 and 8, we have the 100 power snatches, the 50 synchronized toes to bar, and then the handstand walk relay where one athlete goes, the next one goes, then one goes after that, and
Yep.
you go back. Power snatches, biggest thing I see is that the athlete makes sure they snap underneath the bar and don't get into pressing the barbell, the snatch bar overhead. I think it's going to be important that you can cycle the barbell for something like this with so many reps. And because you're going to be getting a nice, decent break in between, you're going to be doing a set, then resting while 2 other people go. Cycling the barbell can be touch and go for this for sure, as opposed to singles as you would if you're an individual. But snapping underneath it and standing up is going to be much more, ease on the shoulders as opposed to pressing it out over again, then trying to hang from the pull-up bar into toes to bar, and then a handstand walk. So getting underneath the bar is going to be important. Some of the stuff just goes to having practice, but making sure that your athletes know the cadence on the toes to bar. They know if they start with their feet out in front or behind, so they go right up into that first one, so there are no missed reps. Hopefully you have one athlete that's strong with toes to bar. Like I think Cody did all of the toes to bar with the girls. Then girls just kind of went back and forth. I don't think it's realistic for every team to have one of those
Cody
athletes.
on your team.
Yeah.
That's the episode.
Get Cody in your team, you'll be all set. But yeah, I think just making sure your cadence lines up is important. And then with the handstand walk, we found that, having watched regionals the last 2 years and they have the 10-foot stripes, every 10 feet or so, it's better to kick down and kick back up than just to fight into the middle of one. Oh, I fell down, and then have to re-walk.
You can
that
still
distance.
heave your way past the line, right?
That's the trick. So you use that momentum of toes behind, and as you lean forward, those feet or those hands land, and that forward momentum carries you halfway through the next
But your
block.
feet
anyway.
have to make. Do your feet have to make it over, or just your hands?
Just your hands.
So you could go 45. You could go burning at 45
People did
degrees,
last
and you
year.
get your hand. and
However,
then fall down.
They always brief things differently
Right.
every year. But
Yeah.
last year you're absolutely right. They allowed that in
'Cause
the
that's not
regions
that
I went
far.
to. No, it's not. And so if they allow that, you can, even if you're bad at handstand walks, you can just do those
And then you
chunks
can be
over
on
and over
like a
again.
Jim Fail Instagram clip.
Whatever it takes.
No rep. Yeah, so I think just making sure you kick down, kick back up as needed is important. We watched this, we ran through this event, and it was, if you can make it, come down, shake it out, kick back up, rather than try to fight and kind of suspend yourself in space and keep
No
going.
wasted energy.
Yeah, and then event 9, we have essentially the same final workout as the individuals, but on a team of 6.
Sort of plays itself out, right? Because
Yeah.
each team is going to have to know where each athlete goes. I mean, they're going to have to test that with the females on a team, typically on the average team, not like a super team, but an average team, there's going to be one, maybe two girls that have legless and that have a standout ability to do legless. It's pretty rare still in the sport to have them be very proficient in it. So that might be an easy choice for you. Guys, most guys can handle all three versions, and whoever your best at legless is, that's who you'd put on, right?
Yeah, actually, Cody and Max are very similar in terms of legless. Cody's a little faster with legged rope climbs, so that's the reason why we flip-flop them. But honestly, those guys could interchange between each other, and I'm the slowest at rope climbs, so I go in the middle. So
there you go. That's sorted out. So, and realistically, again, hopefully teams went through this and made adjustments as needed. There isn't any trick to this. It's a like a conga line relay, or it's a relay, right?
It's a relay, one after another. Yeah, hopefully you set yourself
25 minutes
up.
To complete 6 versions of it.
Yep. So hopefully you set yourself up so that your practice is enough that you know which girl goes where, which guy goes where, and that you give the people who are doing legless maybe a little more time than people who aren't doing legless. Especially when it comes to the females, like you said, most of the females are getting better at legless, but it's still not the same like standard movement it is for a lot of the guys. So making sure they get a little extra time so that everyone else can push their piece of it is going to be important.
In the individual version, Drew was talking about, you don't really have a choice. You have to go for it. Is that the same in the team version, given that there's 25 minutes and that you have 6 variables instead of 1 to see what that best score is? Does any member of the team pace, or do they have to decide based on their ability or inability to get it done? Like how do you do that?
Hopefully with the run through, everyone has kind of a gauge for where their throttle is in terms of, do I need a red line here, or should I back off so I can do the next round of rope climbs? Having run through it, I think for someone like myself, I try to red line through this. I try to go as fast as possible because the thrusters are an afterthought. 21:59 at 95 is
for most,
for most regional level athletes is over. Whether you've done that millions of times, not a big deal. It's stay by the rope, get back up the rope over and over again. And if you're doing the legless version, hopefully you've practiced enough and you've got enough underneath your belt so that you are efficient getting up and down that rope, so you don't stand there staring at it. Because I feel like the best teams are going to be separated by their girl's able to get up and down that rope over and over again 6 times fast. That's going to be the determining factor.
Ted's staring at us to wrap up. So
no problem, Ted. You got it.
I will say one thing about the teams, guys, is what's really cool about the teams, and you get to make this choice almost, is that there are 6 variables. It's not just one person. So the more you practice the stuff that we've talked about, the more obvious stuff, you can beat teams that are better than you, that are more fit than you, that are more prepared from a strength and stamina standpoint.
Yep.
You can win because you practice, because you have the right leaders out on the floor with the right people, the right combinations. So be really meticulous with practicing this stuff, because this can get you to your goal number, whether that's 19th or 1st or whatever it is. You can surpass teams with fitter athletes than you. And I think that's a pretty cool thing.
I agree.
It's all about that practice.
You guys good?
Yeah.
Good to go.
All right, guys. Thanks for watching.
Peace.
See you guys soon.